The Bulgarian split squat, I think, is often used as a secondary movement or some weird instability thing or just a way to torture people. But it can be a really good primary movement that helps you get a lot stronger and a lot faster. So for a Bulgarian, I really like a 15-inch box for my height and my leg length. If anything, I might go a little shorter to a 12. I definitely don't want to go much higher. When I'm setting up on it, I want the top of my foot to be really on the edge of the box. Now I'm going to find my stability point. If I were holding weights, I'd be here, reach back, and place. One of the biggest mistakes I tend to see is we get too wide. So when we come down to this bottom, my hip opens up, my pelvis ends up rotating, and this actually pulls me out of stability. Here, this can feel more stable because we have a wider base of support. But at the bottom, where we're actually trying to drive out of the difficult position, if we're narrower here and we can find this stability point, as I get into the bottom, my pelvis is able to stay static. It's able to stay flat, doesn't come into this rotation. I'm able to lean forward and drive through this foot and actually create a lot of force and power. So don't go really wide. Keep your feet in line with your hips is step number one. Two, I think we often pick things that are too high. So a lot of the time we'll use a bench, which is going to be somewhere in the 18 to 20 inch range. So this is going to be 21 inches high, and it will definitely deliver the point. So if I set up on this box, and then I come down to the bottom, and with this big stretch in this quad, and this knee is not even close to the ground. It doesn't really matter where I position. If I hit the bottom of this movement, I'm going to end up with a really big stretch in my rec fem, or what we often like call hip flexors, right? And as a result, that is actually probably going to be my limiting factor. I'm going to be pulled into this with a bunch of weight. I'm going to find this big stretch. I'm going to be tempted to like push out of the bottom with this back leg. So we're going to get a lot of engagement in this back quad and not as much through the front leg as we might like. So if all you have is a bench, that's absolutely fine. But if you have a set of boxes where we can place it lower, that would probably be a better thing than ending up in a position where we end up with that big stretch in the back quad. Now, what we could do is, if you don't have something like a set of boxes and all you have is a bench, we could set up a couple plates. I'm going to use this because it's easier to set up. But if you put 2 or 3 plates on each other, you'll end up with like a 4 to 6 inch height, and you'll be able to put that. So you're not going to place the top of your foot. You're going to set up on the ball of your foot here. We still want to treat that like a one-legged squat with a kickstand. So I'm still not going to really put any weight in this back foot. It's just back here kind of hanging out. And then I can come to this bottom position and drive back up to top. Bottom, drive back up to top. It will reduce the range of motion a little bit, but not so much as it's problematic. You'll be a lot more stable and you'll be able to put more load through that front leg. Now, when we look at setup for this, I think we also end up a little too far out because we see this as a big like glute builder exercise, which it definitely is. But if you step out really far here, you're going to feel, here, let me switch sides. You're going to feel this front glute a lot because it's in this big stretch position and you're able to drive out of the hole with it. But due to being kind of elongated front to back, leaning back with this upright torso, we're not going to be able to load it as heavy as if I just shortened this by probably 2 to 3 inches, set up, and leaned really forward. My glute's still in this really elongated position, so I'm still going to get as much benefit there. I'm still going to be able to drive with power, but because I'm leaned forward and all of my body weight, all of my entire combined center of mass, dumbbells included, is over this front foot, over the middle of this front foot, I will be able to push and move a lot more weight, which is going to get me a lot more development in muscle, power, speed, strength, etc. Right? So we don't really want this big stretched out position with this tall torso and it's like 90-degree knee height. It looks good, it feels good, but we're actually going to get a lot more out of this exercise if we lean forward, settle into this foot, use heavier weights, and find that drive. So don't pick anything that's too high, make sure your feet side to side are actually in line with your hips rather than being too far out. If we need to do any adjustments, I'd probably go lower on the box rather than higher, up to like a bench, and then accept the fact that we kind of want this to be this like strength, almost sprinting exercise where I'm as far forward here as I can be before my heel floats. I'm really maximizing this ankle flexion, loading into this front foot, and using it as this big drive. And that is how we're going to get the most out of our Bulgarian split squats.